Okay, so how many of you have seen these before? You've seen them before? Have you tried them? No, why not? Well, it's not actually a bag of crickets. No, they're not taste like. It's not cricket flavored. You don't want things that are cricket flavored. You want things that are made out of crickets that don't taste like a cricket. Well, if you add salt to them, yes. So, it's protein. It's environmentally responsible protein, kids. Okay, so what you do is if you want a chunk of cow, it takes about, I forget how many gallons of water per pound of, it's like 2 or 3 gallons per gram of cow that you get of water. In order to raise a cow, you need to use a tremendous amount of water to graze one, cow part. A lot of water. It only takes, in order to make a kilogram of this, it takes about a gallon of water to make a kilogram of crickets. They don't use very much water. They're much more efficient. People don't like eating crickets because the legs keep getting stuck in your teeth. People get averse to the way that the idea of what they taste like is. Has anybody been to the Wild Animal Park and just munched on a cricket? So periodically, if you ever get to go to the butterfly thing at the Wild Animal Park, which I highly suggest, because it's really cool, that you go to, you go sit there and you get these little things of nectar and you sit and the butterflies land on you and they're really, really pretty. And you can sit and look at them for long periods of time as they sit and if you wear perfume on your hat or your backpack, they will, she spilled perfume in her backpack for last week, but the butterflies will sit on your backpack because they like the flowery kind of smells. And so, and they're just gorgeous. Well, while you're waiting in line to go in, people, they walk by and hand you crickets and say, hey, why don't you try a cricket? Why are we trying to get people to eat more crickets? So they're much more environmentally sustainable than cows. And so these I saw these at our local grocery store. Our local grocery store is extremely hip, the Ralph's over by San Diego State. And so I said, hey, cool, barbecue cricket chips, I'm in. So I bought them, and I'm expecting my family to go, and run out of the house. Everybody tried them. They go, oh, they're pretty good. The brainwashing is almost fully complete at the Weinert household. Okay. So how do you know what something should taste like? Well, that's an image. So you can't. There we go. Hold on. Let me go back to the right graphic here. Okay, so if you smell these chips, you're going to get past those things. Okay, we did that last class. There's pain. Okay. Okay. What is your sense of smell? What is smell? This is one of the more rude things to do in a classroom. She got some. What's wrong with hard-boiled eggs? Good. What does it smell like? How does smell work? I haven't. How does smell work? So we'll start out. You have this thing called a receptive field. How many people can smell the egg? I know you can. I would say your smell is very sensitive. I can't smell you, so your smell is not strong. Anybody else smell the egg? I have another one. I could eat it. I'm still kind of hungry. You don't want to smell it? Oh, okay, fine. Okay, so in one of my winter session class, I had a student who was sitting right under the air vent in E225. A couple of you have been in that classroom. And when you're sitting right under the air vent, she starts peeling a hard-boiled egg right as class is starting. So when you peel a hard-boiled egg, and I'm wafting the smells, what's actually happening? Little tiny pieces of egg are aspirating and floating up into the air. Little tiny molecules of egg. Anything that has a smell, has little particles, molecules in it. So if I zoom in, what this little thing is, I'm going to draw a molecule. There's my chicken molecule. Okay, I'll draw a better molecule than the chicken molecule. Okay, so I'm just going to draw a molecule that looks like this. There we go. There's my chicken molecule. Now that looks slightly religious. I'm not going to get rid of my chicken molecule then. There we go. Non-religious chicken molecule. Does every molecule have its own shape? Ish? Every molecule has its own chemical structure. And every time you... What's a molecule? Group of more than one atom bonded together. Okay? So a molecule is a group of more than one atom bonded together. When these atoms bind together, they form a new thing. A molecule is the smallest part of that thing that still has characteristics of that thing. So like a little particle of egg. Okay, in that little tiny molecule of egg still has all the characteristics of egg, except it is very small. And some of the particles are very small, and they can be wafted out into the air. Molecules float through the air all of the time. Okay, if I zoom in on your nose, on the inside your nose, you take a nice breath of fresh air. Okay? And what hangs down from the top of your nose? They're called cilia. Cilia are hair-like structures that have that have receptors on them. There's a lot of different types of cilia. My poor son has a cough right now. In his cough, the cilia in his lungs are irritated. So when he gets asthma all the time. And anytime there's a change in the weather, he immediately starts getting asthma. So we were at Santee Lakes on Sunday. The weather was nice. It started changing. He immediately started sneezing. Then he started coughing, and now he's coughing, and they won't let him go to school. So either that or we just plagued everybody with the coronavirus. One of the two. Okay. And so if the cilia are irritated, so what happens if the cilia are irritated in your nose? What do? You start sneezing. For him, it always goes the same progression. Sinuses get irritated. When they get irritated, what do you produce? Mucus. Look at that little Mucinex guy there, little phlegm ball throwing crap at stuff. Ugh. Okay? The mucus coats. What color should we make mucus? Do we have a good green? Oh, yeah. The mucus coats these membranes at the top of your nose with the cilia in it. So the cilia are there, and the mucus is floating around inside the cilia. Okay? Around the cilia. So what happens if you have completely dry nasal passages? You really can't smell much. You can't, but so your nose is constantly producing a light moisture. So you can collect these little egg molecules. Yoink, yoink, yoink. When that egg molecule binds to one of these olfactory receptors, it sends a signal into your brain. You can actually, if you wonder how it actually works, there are thousands of different types of olfactory receptors. There's thousands of different types. Because is there a limit to the number of stinks you can smell? Okay, so I'm going to open this. Okay, and I'm going to just waft it and see if anybody can smell it. These are very strong. You can smell it, but you're super sensitive. And I'm not going to pass it around but can anybody smell it in the second row? It's really strong up here. Can you guys smell it when I walk by in the front row? If I start throwing them at you, you can probably smell it. Well, I was going to use this one because this is the one that she brought in. Champagne apple honey. It just sounds like diabetes in a can. Okay. So I'm going to give, is anybody super sensitive to perfumey smells? My buddy Frank is super sensitive to perfumey smells. Okay, so I'm just going to give this, I can smell bad here. So what did I do with the molecules of this thing? Smells like Bath and Body Works. That smells like Bath and Body Works. As you walk into Bath and Body Works, that's the smell. Let me know if you guys can smell it up there.
Oh, that's smelling up.
There you got it. Okay, hold on. Why can't I smell that perfume that you have in there? Okay. Oh, it smells good. So if I do the walk around, raise your hand if you can smell it now. Okay, nothing? You're in the dead center, so he's the furthest distance away. So what's happening is the molecules from this spray, yeah, I can taste it now. Okay. The molecules from the spray are spreading themselves equally out. And what they're, have you got it yet? Now you got it, okay. So as they spread out, a single molecule can attach to that olfactory receptor. And when that olfactory receptor becomes activated by the molecule, it gets a sense. Why does it smell like Bath and Body Works? But why do I say smells like Bath and Body Works? Smells are learned through associations. Smells are learned through associations, not necessarily by a specific receptive field. How do I know what an egg smells like? Okay, so you start to think about an egg. Well, an egg actually, a cooked egg smells like sulfur, not like an egg. But why do we say when you smell that slightly sulfur smell, it smells like rotten eggs? It doesn't smell like sulfur. So the chemical structure of egg is very similar to the chemical structure of sulfur. So therefore, because the chemical structures are similar, they activate the receptor the same way. You say, oh, it smells like sulfur versus, oh, it smells like eggs. When you say it smells like, that is the association that you have made with it. So in one of the TED Talks, if somebody reminds me to send out, actually I could pause the recording, we can watch it. But he basically finds molecular shapes that look similar. And he found one, hexylmethane, which looks just like the chemical formula for sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide is that gas venting brimstone smell. Rotten eggs, sulfur dioxide. Hexylmethane looks exactly like it. Therefore, should it smell like rotten eggs? Yes, and though he can't get any hexylmethane because it's rocket fuel and you have to buy it in the ton, is what his joke is. And trying to convince his lab to buy a ton of rocket fuel so we can sniff it, probably not a good choice. And it tends to blow up on contact with air, so it's also not a good thing to have around. But he found an article that said, yeah, it smells like rotten eggs. So how do you know something actually works? Like your coffee. What does coffee smell like? Don't say coffee. The only way to describe a smell is by association, not by actual line. Like, how do you understand this line? the contrast between the screen and where the line is activates photoreceptors. If the photoreceptors activate a receptive field in a certain orientation, you see it as a line. If you're focused on the fovea, and we can zoom all the way in, and we can see that the line is not a perfect line. But if I zoom out as far as I can, the line looks better because it doesn't shine on as many visual receptive fields. How can you feel the difference between like a cut or just a poke in your hand? How do you know that you cut yourself versus just stabbed yourself? But you can feel if the cut goes from one dermatome to the other dermatome, it feels like multiple little points, so it feels like a, quote, cut. But if you can't tell the difference between, on the back of your hand, your dermatomes are relatively big, it hurts. Does it feel like a cut or a poke? It just hurts in that area. I can't tell if the orientation. I got one on my hand yesterday. I cut myself right here. It's actually healed quite nicely by now. But I was looking, I was like bleeding. And I cut myself. I'm not even sure how I cut myself. I cut myself on something. But it was cut there. I couldn't really tell how it was cut until I washed it off. Then I looked at it. Oh, okay. I sliced myself a little bit. So whether you determine whether something is present in our consciousness, in our Umwelt, it has to do with the way the receptive fields come in. So can you still smell that apple smell? I can still smell it, but are the molecules still floating around the room? Most likely they're just caught in the cilia in my nose. Most likely they're just caught in the mucus in my nose. And because they're sitting in the mucus in my nose, what will I do for quite a while now? I will smell that smell for a while, even though the smell itself, the molecules have dissipated throughout the environment and we can't smell them anymore. If you were closer to where the initial spray was, what happens to the density of the molecules in the air? It's highest, so you smell it stronger. You have a much more identified sense of smell. So one of the ways of talking about trying to understand smell is the first place that smell goes is, what does it say, number 2? The amygdala. Smells go directly to your emotion centers first, because the way that you form associations the fastest is through emotions. So, and I did this in my intro class a lot, but in Mission Trails right now, these are everywhere. They might be done by now. After the rain, they're probably done. But what are these? Flowers. That's very general. Thank you. They're blue. Okay. This is actually called coelacanthus. Coelacanthus is a mountain lilac. They are amazing to sniff. Sadly, this is the reason why a lot of the mountain bike trails and mission trails have been shut down, is because people hack their way through these. They're endangered. Don't hack your way through coelacanthus. Work around the coelacanthus, please. Anyway, and so there's a lot of the trails that we used to ride on go right through the coelacanthus groves, which makes me kind of sad that they cut down the coelacanthus, but unless you know that they're endangered, do you realize that they're endangered? No, and some of the mountain bikers just don't care. I care, and I mountain bike. So when you ride through these things, it's amazing. We always go, how long does the smell last? If you get out and roll in them, it lasts longer. Oh, sorry. Only lasts as long as the molecules are present in your nose. Can you remember what a smell smells like? So, can you remember what something tastes like? So, okay, so, but can you remember what roses smell like? Prove it. So, someone tell me what a rose smells like. Okay, thanks, Captain Obvious. Smells themselves are associations, not necessarily conscious events. Can you picture what stepping in dog poo smells like? Or my favorite's that little quick slide you get when you step. Oh no! Poo shoe! Somebody has a dog in our neighborhood that has really bad diarrhea, and they don't clean up after it. Now, you've probably seen this on your runs. It's always down Shannon. And my friends got it on their little camera. They have a little camera in front of their house, and the dog just stops and goes, blah! And then the guy just goes, and then just keeps going. In the person's driveway. Ah! John Denny has a picture of him at the hose going, ah! Yeah. Okay. Well, now I can't look at the eat bugs because now I'm thinking about stepping in diarrhea and I'm looking at barbecue cricket chips. Wait a second. Can I make myself be nauseous thinking about cricket chips by thinking about the dog's diarrhea at the same time as looking at this image? That's called classical conditioning. Classical conditioning, and that's all through. Classical conditioning is formed through associations. So your learning is formed through the judgment of stimuli. Do some stimuli smell good? What stimuli smells good?
Perfume wasn't that bad.
Okay, to me it smells like Bath and Body Works. Yeah, not good. Sorry for your apple spray. But what about, okay, what is the name of the perfume that you bought? Rick? What's the name of it? Oh, is it the rose one?
I don't use it that much, so I just sprayed a bunch of it.
And then it leaked in your backpack? And now you're floral? Okay, so how would you describe it to everybody? How would you describe the smell?
It says
No, how would you describe the smell?
very strong.
Can anybody picture what it smells like if she says very strong? No.
Is there even words to describe smell?
Yeah, there are words to describe smell, and this is actually one of my favorite things. I really wish I was a little bit more cultured in my life, and I wish I could do wine tasting. I ain't cultured. I like building bicycles, not wine tasting. And I prefer beer to wine. Okay? So Ashley, keep that in your head, and you're going to describe it for us in a second. When you go wine tasting, if you ever do this in your life, what you do is you've got the wrist motion. You swirl it around to stir up the molecules, and then you stick your nose in it and go. And if you stick your nose to the side, you will suck more air in than wine, and then you mix the air molecules up, so you stir up a lot of the molecules. And then when you breathe it in through your nose, you get what's called notes. Okay, so I'm going to put this up here. So what the word notes are, your smell works in notes, the same way your sound works in notes. There are certain frequencies of things that smell that resonate. The same thing as certain frequencies resonate in his head, that resonate in my head, that don't resonate in your head. So each time you make a smell, you smell something. Okay, so can you describe one tiny smell in that perfume smell? Coconut, great. So as you say there's coconut notes. Is that on the front of the smell or the back of the smell? So when you smell it, did it hit you coconut? Or did it hit you like, what is that? Oh, coconut.
Yeah, it's like coconut makes you like something strong.
Okay, so, but strong as far as chemical strong? Or was it like a flower strong? Or,
I don't know, something just strong.
okay, so the note is, when you, as a professional smeller, what you would learn to do is trying to figure out what are the other notes. How could you describe those other notes to people? So like if you smell a Chardonnay, Chardonnay has a smell that is very similar to cat pee. So can you picture what cat pee smells like? Let's go to my damn garage. Okay. We got a door that automatically closes now. Yeah, no more cats in my garage, just rats. Oh, that's why the cats were in there. Never mind. Okay, so you smell it and you get this sense of, it's a sour smell. It smells like green apples or cat pee. If you have a Sauvignon Blanc, which is a different type of white wine, you smell it and you get this kind of chemical smell associated with it and lots of citrus notes, like apples and oranges. But the more I use vocabulary to describe it and I give it to someone to sniff, can they smell those notes? Because I'm asking them to see if you can smell these particular notes. If you smell dark wines like Cabernet Sauvignon, you smell it, and you say, look, okay, I'm getting a lot of oak. You get a lot of cherries and dark fruit, plums. Does it really have all those things in it? No, but those are the molecules that are hitting your nose, and the more you learn the notes, the more you learn the things that smell, the easier it is to identify the particular smell. So when I smell coffee, we do, in my behaviorism class next semester, we do a coffee cupping. Bless you. Okay? A coffee cupping. I totally thought that was him that sneezed. I know. I looked over and it looked like you were just sneezing. I'm like, that was a very cute sneeze, sir. I'm like, didn't expect that, but okay. Okay. So my daughter had an awful sneeze and she had to reprogram her sneeze. She kept going when she sneezed. So now she goes, chew. She goes, achoo, and now it's cute as opposed to pfft. Takes a long time to reprogram your sneeze. Sorry, useless information. So, but when I in my behaviorism class, we teach people how to do wine tasting, but we can't do wine tasting because I don't want to get fired. So we use coffee. We do what's called a coffee cupping. A coffee cupping is a way that you can go to a coffee cupping. Okay, it's a different kind of cupping than the way they do pants. If you're a Friends fan. Now, that's not how they do pants in prison. Okay, sorry. So what a coffee cupping is, you pour boiling water over fresh beans and let them stew for a little bit, then use a spoon, move the beans out of the way, and then you get a spoonful of like, quote, coffee, unquote. And it's just, there's nothing else in it except the beans and the water. And you smell it first, and you get all these different aromas. If you look at Starbucks, they always say things like roasted cherry, chocolate, walnut, burnt tire. That's their... Well, can you get a vulcanized rubber burnt tire taste on a really dark roast coffee? Yes, you get this kind of acidy, caustic kind of really darkness. It smells almost like a cigarette butt if you have a really, really dark roasted coffee that's been cooked too long, aka Starbucks. And so as when you smell it, you can actually you say, oh, tobacco. Does it really have tobacco in it? That would be amazing. No, nicotine coffee. But what it does is by identifying the notes are what form the association, and the association is what forms the smell. So the receptive field for smell, can someone define a receptive field? What does it actually mean? Not distance. It's an area of receptors, an area of receptors that allow you to identify the difference. A receptive field is an area of receptors that allows you to find a difference. So in the eye, the receptive fields respond to light. It's an area of... I'm going to write it down. I really like the green today. It's an area of receptors that allow you to notice a difference. And this is the key. I changed the word from see to notice, by the way, when I wrote it down and when I said it, just for the record. So we're going to talk about taste here in a second. But anytime you have a receptive field, you can notice a difference. We see by noticing differences. So if you in the cognitive class we're talking about attention, noticeable differences are what draw attention. Can you see a difference in the colors here? No. Are there different colors being shown right here? Yes. What are the different colors being shown right here? If I can make it. I can't zoom in enough. It's not magnifying enough. If I were to hold a magnifying glass here, what three colors are right here? Oh, come on. Someone knows. Physics? Yellow, blue. The components of light on a projector, the three colors. But I think it's yellow, blue, and red. Red, blue, green? Yeah, red, blue, green. I can remember. It's on your shirt. That's how it works. Okay, sorry. But the three opponent colors, if I shine all three colors at one dot, I see white. If I show just one of the colors, I get a different color. And the ratio of all those three colors, depending on what the ratio of each one of those pixels is, depending on what total color I see, the gestalt. We don't see the bottom up because the bottom up is too small. We just say white, black, orange. Yeah, neighbor Carpool's figuring out that my son didn't go to school today and someone else has to pick up the kids. And it's what? 10 o'clock. Good job, Carpool. They usually wait till like 10 minutes before the kids are being picked up. Who's picking up the kids today? Never be in a carpool with people you care about. Anyway, the drama. Okay. Stay within the cones. Okay. So, oh no, okay. I'm going to mute you now, Carpool. I just got to keep my phone. Oh no, I'm not going to mute Carpool because I'm waiting for a call from the doctor. Okay. So you're going to hear my phone clunk. Okay, so most importantly, how many receptive fields do you have for smell? Lots. Almost an infinite amount. There's an infinite amount of stink that you can smell. Is there a limit to what you can smell? There's no limit. Because if you once you learn to smell a cup of coffee, which I really want coffee now. Once you learn to smell a cup of coffee, do you notice all the differences in that cup of coffee? Yeah. One of my favorite coffees on the planet is a Sumatra coffee from the island of Sumatra. Weird. Where I got the name. Wonder which came first. Anyway, and I really like a lot of the African coffees. African coffees are really good. They taste different than South American coffees. Why do they taste different?
The ingredients are grown in a different part of the earth.
Different part of the earth, different minerals in the soil, different light, different environment, different temperature, different plants, different genetics of the plant, same plant, but once it's grown in a new environment, the genetics change. I can tell the difference between a nice shade-grown coffee versus a crap Robustus coffee. You buy $3 coffee at Trader Joe's, what do you get?
$3 coffee.
Caffeine in a cup. Woo! Okay. But when you buy a really expensive, good cup of coffee, what should you get? A joyful, pleasurable experience. The cold brew at our Starbucks is so much better than cold brew out here. I don't know. I don't know, but the cold brew out here is not very good, but the cold brew at our Starbucks is amazing. Maybe because they sell a lot more one near our house, I'm not sure. But can you taste the difference? Well, it turns out you can taste a difference if you can smell a difference. Taste and smell go into your brain to one spot. Not the bugs. Well, the bugs will come in handy in a second here. Okay, so, oops, I can't zoom in on that. How'd that go back so far? There we go, that's what I wanted. Taste and smell go into your brain in similar places. Come on, computer, go. There we go. Ah. Can you see it? Ah, okay. The part of the brain is called the insula. It's where the flavor cortex is. Now, if somebody does something that is slightly assholic, okay? Or if like you go to a used car salesman and you find out that he's trying to pull one over, you go, that left a bad taste in my mouth. Why would you say that? The insula's primary job is this emotion. The flavor cortex, the part of your brain where you taste things, okay, is where your brain produces the hormone or the emotion disgust. So can somebody tell me what disgust is? How many of you would not eat these? Why would you not eat them?
Looks like they got crickets in them.
They do have crickets in them.
There are other options you can eat.
Well, why not eat these? These are better for the planet. Don't you care about the planet? The planet loves you. It really doesn't care about us.
There are
One earthquake, we're all done, and it's like, I got those all day. But yeah.
I feel like a lot of people would picture the actual cricket in their head.
Okay, so if you associate an actual cricket in your head, hey Google, can you chirp like a cricket? These are crickets. It's kind of nice. Crick, 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 crunch. Now, has anybody eaten sunflower seeds in here? Okay, you ever get one that tastes kind of burnt and nasty? That's a worm.
Oh
Yeah.
Why would you tell me that?
yeah? You right?
Because that's what crickets taste like. Yeah, toasted insects taste like toasted insects. Turns out there's not much flavor difference between most insects once you toast them. They're not good for you anyway. They're very high in salt, and it's generally road trip food, just keep you busy so you're not then spitting them all over the floor of your father-in-law's truck, and then he yells at you for 6 years. Okay. Yeah, I never hear the end of me missing the little cup that I was putting the sunflower seeds in and got like 4 sunflower seeds in the floor of his car. Anyway, so, but if all of a sudden I put this image into your head of what a cricket tastes like, and then I show you a chip, what happens to the likelihood of eating these now? It decreases. Because you're like, oh, that was nasty. That was nasty. Pip, I got a burnt one. If you just open them up, and basically there's these little moths that get in and lay their eggs in sunflower seeds, and then the little worm grows and eats the sunflower seed. And if are they harmful? Are they bad for you? No, it's got about the same protein as a sunflower seed, but less fat. So technically, you're good. Well, yeah, there's bugs everywhere, but as soon as you start thinking about it, though. Okay, and so this hormone of disgust, what is disgust for? Why do we have this? Well, I keep saying hormone because it's not hormonal. It's an association, but it's an emotion. Why do we have this emotion of disgust?
So often using that when you want it.
There's a chemical called butyric acid. Butyric acid is found in a lot of foods. When you are roasting onions and garlic, the chemical that makes onion and garlic smell onion and garlicky is called butyric acid. It's wonderful. It tastes so good. What about a rotten onion? A rotten onion smells good? No, not so good. In fact, one of the things that it smells very much like feces. You go out in your garage, it smells like poo out there. What's going on? We have our pantry, is like a part of our pantry is in our garage. And so it's kept stinking and smelling really bad in there. What is that? What is it? A bag of potatoes had one bad old potato at the bottom of it. And it smells so bad. Because it turns out, once an onion spoils, can you get very sick from eating a spoiled onion? Yes, and eating a rotten potato. You get very sick from eating rotten potatoes. So our brain either evolved or has learned that rotten butyric acid smell means disgust. Don't eat that. If you smell something and it smells disgusting, it tells you, don't eat that. A friend of ours had a wine and cheese party at their house, and they had 1 million different types of fancy French cheeses. Do not sniff the cheese before you eat it. What does a lot of fancy French cheese smell like? Smells like poo. Limburger cheese smells like feces. The term, who cut the cheese? You cut a fresh rind of this cheese off, and it smells like someone just had gas. Poo, nasty. Because the stuff on the outside is digesting the cheese, which causes the rind to form. The stuff on the inside, however, amazing. Super good. But don't sniff it. Next time you have some blue cheese, give it a good and then eat it. Sorry. So, now, what are the receptive fields that tell you not to eat things? I'm going to get rid of this because I don't really have that anymore. I have very low disgust. I am not disgusted by much. Yeah, no, I have very low disgust rating. Nothing really disgusts me too much. At the gym, we were doing these box jumps, and one of the guys that does training is like super fit, and he does personal training at their gym, and he was there working out while we were working out last night. And it was so funny because he's like, hey, can you do this or can you do this? Because we were doing stupid things. And like jumping onto the boxes. So then he put the other box standing sideways in front of it. So I had to jump one and then jump onto the high one. But the boxes are made out of like high jump material, so they're squishy. So when you jump onto the high box, it's like, whoa. So he was trying to see if I could do it. And I'm like, he goes, why don't you step on it to see if you can balance? Am I one to just try to step on it, see if I can balance? No. Just go for it. And that's the thing is I've given up being afraid of stuff anymore. I don't care. So I just go for it. Do I fall down? Not yesterday. Okay, once, but that's not important. And I do have a mark on my shin, but that's not important. But you just go for it. And this is why disgust is constantly a sign of fear. If you're producing a lot of disgust, that means you're afraid. What are you afraid of? You're afraid of your disgust. But what if I don't like it? Then you can say, I don't like it. Well, because you have a very sensitive sense of smell, why would she have a more sensitive disgust? Because the insula gets a lot of information from the nose. And if you form a lot of associations with smells, you're much more likely to be disgusted. A lot of old people eat rotten food and get sick because they can't smell. Pay attention to the dates. And then they write the dates small enough so us old people need to go find glasses to find out if the hummus is still good. Oh, shouldn't have eaten that. Didn't have glasses. See, this is the dangerous part. This is the pair that I usually leave in the kitchen. Where is it right now? Here.
So if you leave it here, then you don't have that.
I won't have. I put it in my pocket this morning by accident. So I was. Anyway. So, on your tongue. Blah. What are the different zones on your tongue? What are the different receptive fields on your tongue? I'll show you exactly how taste receptors work in a second here.
Salt, bitter.
Okay, so your whole tongue tastes salt. Salt is the easiest receptor to understand. Salt is sodium channels. So guess what happens when I put sodium on a sodium channel? It fires. There's something really interesting. Does anybody ever go play in the ocean? Here? We feel one or two people? East County folks. Okay. But when you go play in the ocean, the first couple dives under a wave, everything is super salty. But after that, what happens? You don't taste the salt anymore. You just don't notice that the ocean is super salty anymore. Even if you get a big old mouthful of water, you're like, and you cough and sputter a bit, you don't taste the salt anymore. Because what happens is you adapt. Your salt gets used, you get used to a particular salt. Once the neurons get used to a particular level of salt, you stop paying attention to the salt anymore. American food is significantly salty. And I think the reason is a lot of the people that first came here oversalted their food because it took a long time to get here. Think about people coming across the Old West. It's just, you had to salt everything to preserve it to get across the deserts without your food rotting and spoiling and you dying. Just if you go listen to some of the pioneer stories on the east side of the Sierras, so many people died on the eastern side of the Sierras because they were trying to find a way to California. It took a long time. They got about halfway across the Sierras and then winter occurred. And then they're done. Donner, party of 8, party of 7, party of 6. Okay. So there's a lot of, so maybe our San Diego, California, a lot of people heavily salted their foods. Okay, so, but why do we like salt? Why do we have receptors specifically for salt? Is salt good for us? Salty, you need salt. Not added salt, but you need foods that have salt in them. And it's interesting, there's a couple different flavor receptors that you have, and one of them are located right here. They're called umami. Yeah, umami is where you taste protein. You taste protein. So whenever you eat something that has protein, there's receptors in the middle of your tongue that taste protein. That uses a neurotransmitter called glutamate. The neurotransmitter glutamate is how protein tastes. So if I add something called monosodium glutamate to my food, what happens? Let me see if I can find this picture real quick. At Northgate, let's see if I can do World Food Market. Nope. Okay. But, sorry. At World Food Market, it's a grocery store with lots of different ethnicities, food represented. It's mostly Vietnamese food. They sell big boxes of MSG, monosodium glutamate. What does it taste like? Chicken. Tastes like chicken. If you don't have a lot of money and you take a bunch of chicken feet and boil them, all the fat comes out of those chicken feet and makes a broth out of those chicken feet. Wash their toenails first because that's nasty. Okay? So then add MSG to this chicken fat broth and what do you get? Ramen. The broth for ramen. Good ramen shops don't use chicken feet broth. But why would you use chicken foot broth? What does it taste like? Chicken. Add MSG to it and it becomes a satisfying bowl of soup. Is there any real protein in it? No, a ramen packet doesn't have any protein in it. It's chicken fat and MSG. But how does it taste? Like chicken broth, which is satisfying. So when something has umami in it, it tastes satisfying. When something has protein in it, that's why they make tofu out of soybeans. You eat the soybeans, it doesn't taste very satisfying, even though you're getting protein. When they make tofu out of it, it activates the umami receptors, and it's more satisfying when you eat it. Okay, there's a couple other ones that are a lot easier to understand than the glutamate and umami. Oops, not that one. What's a good candy color? Pink. Oh, it's looking like Jar Jar Binks right now. Okay. Those are random. Okay, so now, what does sweet taste like? Don't say sweet. Yeah, sugar. Why on earth would the tip of your tongue taste sweet? Come on. What's the first taste that your face gets when you eat something? The sweet hits first. Sweet hits your brain first because it's at the tip of your tongue. The sugars activate your brain's taste. It's really interesting why a lot of food has added sugar to it. Our culture likes to add sugar to its food. We actually like to add sugar and salt to our food, aka barbecue sauce. Why do we add sugar and salt to our foods? It increases the taste of our food. The problem is our culture, especially American culture, is over justified with the amount of salt and sugar that we put in our food. As a result, in order for us to assume that a food tastes good, it has to have lots of salt and lots of sugar. Now, what's interesting is, what about fat? Do you taste fat? You look fat. I was kidding. Bye. So, I need some sort of like pale yellow. There we go. Does fat have taste? It has texture. Fat triggers the sensory perceptions in the mouth, the physical receptors in the mouth, not the actual taste receptors. However, fat does something that's really interesting. If I mix fat and sugar together, what happens to the sweet taste? Lasts longer. If I add fat to the meat taste, what happens? People like fatty meats for some reason. We're not a big fatty meat family in our house. But some people really like ribeyes, or they say, oh, the flavor is so much better for like a ribeye steak compared to like a we usually, if we eat red meat, we usually 94.7 ground beef, which really doesn't have a lot of flavor, but it's good, really good protein and low fat. Why does 80-20 ground beef taste so much better? But you can't just say the fat. But why does the fat make it taste better? It's not the texture, is that the fat coats the tongue. If the fat coats the tongue, the umami receptors are activated longer. The taste lasts in your mouth longer. You eat a piece of very lean pork. It really has no flavor whatsoever, but you add a lot of fat to that lean pork, called bacon. Anybody know what salt pork is? Salt pork is a main cooking staple. It's a chunk of bacon. They just cut it differently. It's super salty and super fatty, and you add it to the food, and it adds protein and fat and salt. You boil beans, add salt pork to them, baked beans. You add sugar, salt. Okay, So what's the other flavor that we have here? We have got 2 flavors left. Okay, sour. Okay, let's make sour green here. Here's sour. Why does it feel like your tongue's curling up when you eat something that's sour? It's on the sides of your tongue. So I had a student who's never eaten a Sour Patch anything before. She was actually from Japan. She just never had any sour candy before. So I did a thing. If my son wasn't sick, I would have brought more things for you guys to munch on and taste and stuff. But I put a whole handful of Sour Patch gummy bears in my mouth. And a lot of people who eat those immediately started drooling. Because? Why would you start drooling? If you've had them before and you see me put a whole pack of them in my mouth, I had a student a bunch of years ago that my son has a collection of very annoying sour candy. There's these things called crybabies. Yeah, I'm drooling just thinking about it right now. But they're really sour, and they're very unpleasant tasting sour. Until you get past that coating, they're nasty. Yeah, you like that stuff. For me, why am I drooling just talking about it? It's unpleasantly sour to me. I'm not a big sour candy person. I prefer spices, not sour. My son loves sour to the point where he actually shredded his tongue. Because what is sour? Yeah. Sour is acid. What's great is, can you literally burn your entire surface of your tongue off by eating too much sour? Yes. How fast does it regrow? Yeah, you've done that. 1 or 2 days, and you've replenished your entire taste buds in your mouth. 1 or 2 days. You bite a piece of pizza, you burn the tabbouleh out of your face, but the next day you're fine. Once that skin flap comes off, your mouth regrows. That's why they swab your cheek cells to get your DNA, because your cells are constantly growing in your mouth. They're constantly flushing. And my son bit through his tongue in 3 days. It was back. He was fine. It was awful. He fell down. Okay. Okay, what's the last taste that you have? Bitter. Okay, what's a good bitter color? Gray. Metallic. Why does things leave a bad taste in your mouth? That's a bitter pill to swallow. That's some other saying that people have. When something really bad happens, a lot of people get a metallic taste in the back of their throat. Does anybody get migraines in here? Do you ever get that bitter taste in your mouth when you get a migraine? So some people who get migraines get that taste like they have a penny in their mouth. That bitter metallic taste. This is alkaline. That's an K. Alkaline. Any molecule that has an alkaline flavor to it is bitter. It's really kind of interesting that when babies are born, they are born with sweet receptors. They like sweet things. They don't like bitter things. Bitter things cause them to go gag, disgust. When does that change? When do you start growing adult taste receptors? Be careful in the rain. Okay. When do you start growing adult taste receptors? Right around the time where you're starting puberty. My son was little. He pretty much was one of those mac and cheese chicken nugget kids. Anybody in here a mac and cheese chicken nugget kid? Yeah. So everything tasted nasty except like mac and cheese and chicken nuggets. Nothing fancy. So over the course of his life, though, we've brainwashed him to really like a lot of certain foods. And he does not eat a lot of fatty meats. We never eat much fatty meats. But does he really enjoy a hamburger from like Habit and In-N-Out and stuff? Yes, he really likes that crap. Well, I can't brainwash him out of it yet. Soon. Okay. Well, the craziest thing, though, is when my daughter turned 11 or 12, she started wanting everything bagels as opposed to plain bagels. What's the difference between an everything bagel and a plain bagel? Everything. Everything. But what's the main flavor on an everything bagel that overwhelms the rest of the other flavor? The garlic. Little kids generally don't like garlic unless you have introduced it to them very young in their lives, because it has a strong flavor. My son likes garlic bagels now. He also loves capers. And anything seafood he will eat. He still likes the fatty hamburgers, but when we go out for sushi, he's like slamming. He gets like a rainbow roll and 3 California rolls. Stupid expensive little kid. Anyway, but what's interesting is that once you start developing your adult taste receptors, what really determines what foods you like, what foods you enjoy? It's the associations. It's the stimuli that become present. And so the stimuli for taste becomes what you learn. What's really interesting is if anybody's in here ever gets sick and they have a clogged nose, what happens to your ability to taste? It goes away. With your nose plugged, you can't tell the difference between an onion and an apple as far as texture goes. They taste the same. If I take a little chunk of onion and a little chunk of apple, and I plug your nose, you take a bite. If your nose is not functioning, you cannot taste the difference between the two because they have almost exactly the same texture. So I have a chemical in my office that, because of impending family illness, I don't want to bring in, but I have a chemical called Gymnea Celestra that blocks sugar receptors. So what it does is it goes into your face and just blocks the sugar receptors. So when you eat something that's sugary, what does it taste like? Well, no. It tastes like all the other elements that the sugar is masking. Taste is complementary. So, like, if you eat something with sugar and put a little bit of salt on it, like salted caramel, what happens? It makes it sweeter. What is in your coffee mug? Yeah. Okay, so green tea itself is extremely bitter. Do you have sweetener in it? Yeah, so the green tea, my son is a big green tea fan. He's shifted from black tea to green tea because he's growing up. But we always add a tablespoon of sugar to it because what happens, I have my green tea in here today actually too. I added a little bit of sugar to it because what happens if you let it sit too long? It gets more and more and more bitter to the point where it can actually make you throw up because it gets so bitter unless you add just a little bit of sugar. Because if you add a little bit of sugar to it, what happens? Anybody ever tried just plain matcha powder? Ugh. Matcha powder is just ground up green tea leaves. And it's some fancy whatever. But yesterday I had matcha. My last gulp was all the matcha that settled to the bottom. It's so bitter that your brain says, get it out. And it can cause nausea. Whenever we go to boba and get milk tea, I get unsweetened milk with matcha in it. Which to me, it's super good. But is it really, really bitter? But how come it doesn't cause me to get nauseous like just plain matcha would? The milk in it. When you get a milk tea, unless you ask for low-fat milk, they put on full-fat milk in there. That's like real high-octane, ridiculous calorie milk. And when they put the milk in there, it coats those bitter receptors and doesn't allow the bitter receptors to taste as bitter. So, if you cook, what do you need to balance? How do you make food taste good? Yeah, you have to balance all of the flavors together. Do you ever watch the cooking shows where they cook? Yeah, the Master Chef one. I like Guy's Grocery Games because they're more likely to cut themselves. The Worst Cooks. That's a classic. Anyway, but when you watch those shows, the really good cooks can take any food that you throw at them, and how do they make it taste good? By finding a balance of the different nutrients that they have in order to make the flavors complement each other. So again, also, what's really important is this, is the smell that comes out of it. So you don't taste very well, but you smell very well. The combination of the flavors and the smells are what actually, or the taste and the smell is what creates the flavor in your brain. So, okay, so I'm trying to think if there's one other part that we should do with this. Okay, what was one other one that I forgot to do? What about spice? Somebody give me a spice. Cumin. What does cumin smell like? Comino. If you're oh, I should have brought some in. We use it all the time. Smells like armpits.
Yeah.
If you take a big swig out of the jar, cumin's like, all right, who needs a shower in here? Why does it have that body chemical smell? Butyric acid. Butyric acid. It smells like BO. However, when you mix it with food, especially meat and fat, what does it turn into? Taco Tuesday. What about capsaicin? What is that chemical? We talked about capsaicin. What does it activate? Do you think cumin adds taste or smell to your food? Smell, not necessarily taste. If you take a little bit of cumin and put it on your tongue and try to taste it, you're not going to get much. But if you smell it while you're tasting things, you get a lot. We use a lot of cumin. We mix it with yogurt and make it the sauces with non-fat Greek yogurt and cumin and lime. It's really good on stuff. And if you chop mint up with it, epic. But wait, what's mint? Mint is, again, smell. If you just chew on a mint leaf, where do you get the smell of the mint? Through the back of your throat. So that's why when I asked what are the notes that you smell, there's always notes on the front of your nose that you smell. Those are generally the florals. Then there's notes on the back. And that's when you say it's strong, that perfume is overwhelming the back of your palate. And by overwhelming it, you can't differentiate it because it's too strong. Anyway, what should you go? I put out those 2 PowerPoint slides. Why should you look at those? We have a little test on Wednesday, Thursday. I know. Come on. Okay. No, I got them for you. I remember to attach them to the spreadsheet this time.